welcome to the lesson on passion.
You've been waiting for this lesson, haven't you? True oneness comes from being intimate with another person, emotionally, spiritually, physically, and sexually. Hollywood makes it look easy.
When lovemaking doesn't come as easy as you hoped, it can be disappointing.
I was a 20-year-old virgin expecting my wedding night to be magical. And in so many ways, it was passionate kisses from the one I loved, his touch. But I wasn't prepared for the pain of intercourse.
I don't know what your wedding night was like. I don't know the first time you had sex.
But we do know that sex is war. And the enemy doesn't want you to have deep, satisfying sexual relationship.
I was not a virgin when we got married, and I brought some extra baggage with me to the marriage bed.
I brought baggage too. I had experienced sexual abuse. I'd never been penetrated, but I'd been wounded.
I was thankful for a few words from a premarital seminar that we took together. I remember a man saying, "In the beginning, we weren't very good at making love." He also encouraged, quote, "You get better at it."
I think that's really true. You do get better at it as you become more emotionally connected to each other. And when you're physically connected, spiritually connected, you're going to have a better sex life. And we can all look forward to that.
For sure. Now, God could have made procreation possible without all the pleasure sensations, but He chose to create our bodies so that we are capable of great pleasure.
It's really, truthfully, it's one of my favorite things to do in life. I love great sex. And I love the fact that God designed it that we would desire that great and complete union to be one flesh with each
Mhm.
other. A pastor wife came to me one time seeking out that she'd been promiscuous
Mm.
before. And every time she made love to her husband, she felt dirty. And some of those bondages needed to be broken that she could be free to enjoy sex in marriage.
Mhm. When God is first in your lives, there's no hidden agenda. There's no false lovers, so you are able to be naked and unashamed with each other.
For many of us, it means we need healing and
Mhm.
deliverance. God's the one who created sex to be pleasurable, but the enemy wants to pervert sex and he wants to turn passion into lust.
The brokenness surrounding sexual intimacy has so many sources: sexual abuse, sexual exploration, pornography, fear, loss, body changes, sexual dysfunction, emotional abuse, emotional neglect, a lack of ability to have an orgasm, disease, sexual unfaithfulness, emotional unfaithfulness, cyber sex, and prostitution.
And the list doesn't end there.
Mhm.
And all of these things we've experienced as couples have talked to us, or we personally experienced things. And so just know that God is a healer. Don't let hopelessness settle in to your heart or your mind when you think about sexual intimacy with your spouse.
What you experience in the physical realm of your relationship will impact your emotional and spiritual relationship also.
In our marriage, we've gone through many cycles. At times, we felt like we had the hot sex life, At other times, we were in this cycle of rejection and disappointment and even apathy or hopelessness. These are all emotions that can come into our physical relationship.
So if you are a husband who wants sex all the time, but aren't aware or concerned with whether your wife has an orgasm, be honest enough to admit your selfishness.
Or if you're a wife and you're making your grocery list in your mind during sex while your husband just does his thing, you need to be honest about the lack of connection and passion in your marriage and ask the Holy Spirit to help you. Invite Jesus into the passionate part of your marriage. Sometimes it may be that you're the one always initiating sex and you want the other person to initiate more. You know what? These are all cycles we can get into. Let's just connect.
Mhm. And don't give up. Work through the issues that threaten to steal the joy of sexual intimacy in marriage. I gained real freedom through inner healing. I gave in to the temptation of sex before marriage. And as I repented of this and had leaders
Mhm.
pray for me, I got a breakthrough. But now I was free to enjoy sex.
Yeah, it was like revival came to our house. We had found new freedom and joy.
Our sexual intimacy went from being the coldest part of our relationship to being hot and steamy.
At this season, I remember Wayne initiated a time of prayer early in the morning before he went to his secondary job. And often we'd be praying and the spiritual intimacy would spark. We'd usually make love before you
Mhm.
went out of the house. You know, spiritual intimacy impacts your passion.
And we became passionate to help other marriages experience this kind of freedom.
And part of it, we're confident that God can heal and renew your sexual intimacy with each other.
Mhm. Whatever negative or even life destroying habits that you or your spouse has become entangled in, there is hope for a turnaround, for freedom.
Well, it's time to put this lesson to work for you. I don't know what they're going to do, honey. We wanted to make a couple things just to emphasize at the end. Number one, we really encourage you that love making really is a gift within the marriage covenant. And to have premarital sex often creates a barrier to intimacy later. So we encourage you to keep sexual intimacy for the marriage. And then second, we want you to know that it's not just one time in our relationship that we went through a cycle and then all of a sudden we were healed and free. It wasn't like that. And it probably won't be that way for you as well. In fact, we have had many cycles, haven't we?
Mhm. Yes.
You know, I'm thinking about like the birth of our first child, different transitions with work, different times there was stress,
Mhm.
and so there's an up and a down in your life, and keeping hope alive is important. Right now, we're in a hot and steamy part of our relationship,
Yeah.
and it's just bringing so much joy and pleasure in our lives. And just know we're praying for you for the same.